Welcome to the deep dive. We've got a really interesting stack of source material today, mostly pulling from excerpts of Release Your Eagle, which is a guide to self-mastery. So if you're maybe thinking about a big career move, or you feel swamped by information, or, just trying to get clear on what your next big goal is, this dive should be useful. The core idea, the metaphor, is pretty powerful. The book argues, and I quote, "We live in a world where too many people crawl when they were born to fly."
Right.
And our mission today isn't just, feel-good motivation. It's about pulling out the actual strategies, the blueprint that helps you turn that vague ambition into real, purposeful action. We're talking about things like the eagle's gaze, the North Star, strategic glides, the mechanics of it.
And that practical focus, I think, is what makes this material genuinely valuable for you, the learner. We're looking at a system, really. A structured approach to mastering yourself that hits three key things: clarity, resilience, and efficiency. These aren't just soft skills. The book treats them as like the essential internal setup you need to make sure your energy and your time actually lead somewhere intentional. High-level achievement.
Okay, let's unpack that. Starting with the foundation. Clarity. Absolute clarity. The sources are really strong on this, saying that starting anything big without a clearly defined peak.
Yeah. Well, it's like setting sail, but you don't know which port you're heading for.
Exactly. You might feel busy, you might even be moving fast, but ultimately you're just drifting.
Yeah.
At the mercy of whatever currents come along.
And that drifting over the long haul is just wasted effort, isn't it?
Totally catastrophic to long-term goals.
Yeah.
Defining that peak, it does something powerful. It takes a fuzzy desire like, I want to improve, and makes it an actionable objective.
Right.
And the book talks about this creating kind of magnetic pull. It focuses all your scattered energy towards one point, and that's what helps you push through when things get tough.
Right.
Okay, so we need tools for that clarity. The book mentions a classic, the SMART, framework-specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, time-bound. It's well known, but how does this eagle perspective make it, more than just basic goal setting?
Well, I think it elevates it by really zeroing in on the specific and measurable bits, not just as checkboxes, but as like crucial feedback tools.
Okay.
So most people might say, I want to be healthier, which is vague, kind of useless, right?
Yeah, means nothing really.
The source pushes you, it forces detail.
Huh.
I will do 30 minutes of moderate exercise 4 times a week and cut my processed sugar by half within 3 months. See? That second one gives you a daily map.
And that measurable part,
Yeah.
I think people underestimate its power. You can't really navigate if you're just going by feelings.
Yeah.
Like, improve my financial situation. What's the measure? But if it's save an extra $500 a month, suddenly you have data.
Exactly. Objective feedback.
And that keeps you honest, lets you adjust immediately if you see you're only hitting, say, $200 one month.
Precisely. And that rigorous way of using SMART goals, that's the groundwork for what the book calls the eagle's gaze.
Ah, okay. The gaze.
Yeah. And it's much more than just sharp vision, in the moment. It's the ability to perceive what's coming, to look past the immediate noise, spot the underlying patterns, and see what's nascent, what has potential before everyone else does.
Okay, this is where it gets interesting. Because most people look at an industry, say, and they see the big players, the current rules.
Right. The established assumptions.
But the eagle's gaze sort of rejects those.
Absolutely. Think back to the early internet, maybe early 2000s. Lots of established companies saw it through their old lens: slow distribution, basic communication, dial-up modems, clunky websites.
Yeah, I remember that.
But someone with the eagle's gaze saw past that. They didn't just see a novelty. They saw a fundamental shift in how everything would work: commerce, information, everything.
A seismic shift, as the source puts it.
Exactly. They spotted the potential where others just saw maybe a distraction or a cost. And crucially, they were willing to question the old definitions of success.
Okay, so the gaze gives us the destination, the peak, but seeing it isn't reaching it. The book makes that clear. The next big challenge is, well, the constant headwind, distraction, modern noise.
Yeah, the cognitive toll.
Yeah.
It's a huge deal in the sources, and something, let's be honest, we all struggle with. Our environment trains us for constant context switching.
Like checking email constantly.
That's the classic trap. Feels productive, gives you a little dopamine hit maybe,
Yeah.
but every single switch breaks your deep workflow. And the mental reset time needed to get back into focus, it can be like 15, 20 minutes sometimes. Add that up over a week. It's hours of lost high-quality work.
And it's insidious because it's not just the external stuff that pings and alerts.
Uh-huh.
The book mentions three main sources.
That's right. One is the digital cacophony, notifications, alerts, the usual suspects. Two is the physical environment, noisy open offices, clutter at home, whatever. But the third one, and often the most potent, is internal distractions. The worries, the anxieties, replaying arguments in your head, the endless stream of what-ifs.
Yeah, the mental chatter.
That's often the toughest battle in cultivating what the book calls the eagle's focus.
So how do we fight that? What are the tools?
Well, one really practical technique the book suggests is keeping a distraction journal, just for a week.
A journal, okay.
Yeah, it's simple self-assessment. You just log every time your focus breaks. What was the trigger? What did you switch to?
Sounds a bit tedious, maybe, but I guess it makes you aware of your patterns.
Exactly. It makes the invisible visible. You suddenly realize, oh, I check my phone every time I hit a hard part of this report. Or I always drift to that news site around 10:30.
Right. You see the habits.
Once you see them, you can build countermeasures.
Sure.
For the environment, it might be noise-canceling headphones, setting specific email check times, or even just putting up a sign, deep work in progress, to signal to family or colleagues.
Communicating boundaries.
Yeah. And for the internal stuff, that mental chatter,
What about that?
the source brings in mindfulness, but in a very practical cognitive tool kind of way, not spiritual.
Okay, how does that work?
It's just about managing interference. When a distracting thought pops up, worry about a meeting, urge to look something up, you simply acknowledge it. Label it internally, like, just a thought, and then gently bring your focus back to what you were doing.
So you don't engage with it, don't follow it down the rabbit hole?
Precisely. You just acknowledge in return, defangs it a bit.
But critically, the sources also say the best defense against distraction is having a really clear, compelling why for your goal.
Absolutely. If that core vision, that why, isn't strong enough, the little distractions will always win out. It needs to be a more powerful magnet.
Okay, moving into the next section, sustained flight. This is about resilience. And the first thing is shedding weight, letting go of limitations we put on ourselves.
Yeah, this invisible cage, as the book calls it, made up of fears and doubts we haven't really examined.
How do you break out of that?
There's a really powerful question the book suggests, asking yourself whenever you hit what feels like a limit time, skill, market, whatever, is this limitation a fact, or is it just a story I'm telling myself?
Ooh, I like that. Fact versus story.
We build these narratives around our constraints,
Right.
and they become hard rules unless we actively question them.
And once we challenge those stories, we can start setting audacious goals. The book emphasizes these aren't just fantasies. They're targets set deliberately high to force growth.
To compel you to find ingenuity you didn't even know you had.
But I have to push back a little here. For someone listening, how do you stop an audacious goal from just becoming, well, a recipe for feeling like a failure when you inevitably hit bumps?
That's a fair question, and the source addresses it. It argues the real value of the audacious goal isn't always hitting it first time out. It's the self-efficacy it builds along the way.
Okay. How?
It uses their early aviators as an example. Their goals were truly audacious, right? Flying machines.
Yeah, it seemed impossible.
Many failed, often dramatically. But the attempt, the process of learning from failure after failure, that's what drove the breakthroughs. It built this core belief. The seemingly impossible is just something we haven't figured out yet.
So failure isn't the end, it's just data.
Exactly. Data for the next try. It reframes the whole idea of risk.
Okay, that makes sense. So when things do get turbulent on that audacious path, the eagle needs a compass, the North Star. What's that about? It's more than just the goal itself.
Yeah, it's deeper. It's a core conviction, a guiding principle, maybe integrity or innovation or service to others, something that aligns with your really fundamental values.
Like an ethical rudder.
Kind of. It's the philosophical governor for your flight path. The practical application is using it as a filter for big decisions.
What else so?
When you're faced with a choice, maybe one path is easier or more profitable short-term but feels a bit off, while another is harder but aligns with your principles, you ask. Does this align with my North Star?
Okay. Keeps you on track.
Especially when external pressures are high market chaos, sudden growth demands things that could easily pull you off course. The North Star keeps the trajectory stable.
Resilience also means working smarter, not just harder. The book talks about riding the updrafts.
Using the thermals. These are metaphors for opportunities like new technologies, AI maybe, or shifts in how people behave.
So it's about adaptability.
That's the engine, yeah. The eagle uses wind currents to save energy. We need to use continuous learning and new skills to position ourselves to catch those trends.
Right.
And this leads right into strategic gliding, which is all about radical efficiency.
Okay, tell me more about that. How do you shift from just flapping harder all the time to gliding?
It's about ruthlessly leveraging tools and delegating anything that isn't your absolute core high-level contribution.
Give me an example.
We're going to think of a senior manager. Strategic gliding means they recognize that stuff like managing their calendar, sorting through low-level emails, maybe even detailed data prep, those are energy drains.
The things that someone needs to do, but maybe not them.
Yeah. Exactly. So instead of burning, say, 2 hours a day on admin, they actively find ways to automate or delegate those tasks. This frees up their high-value thinking time.
The cognitive capacity.
Right. And that conserved energy gets poured only into the critical few things that only they can do, the strategic thinking, the vision setting, building key relationships. It's about being really strict with prioritizing your own focus.
Okay, that focus leads us into the final section, mastery and continuous ascent. We see the idea of the precision strike here, using those saved resources on the few things that matter most.
And achieving mastery in those areas comes through deliberate practice. The book makes a really key distinction here that often gets missed.
Which is?
Deliberate practice isn't just mindless repetition. That just focuses on throughput, how many hours you put in.
Right.
Deliberate practice is focused, goal-oriented repetition designed for output, actual measurable improvement. It often means tackling exercises that push you right to the edge of your current ability, requiring total concentration.
Harder, but more effective.
Much more. And interestingly, while the eagle is often seen as solitary, the sources do talk about the power of a flock.
Collaboration, mentorship.
Yeah, success gets amplified when you share wisdom. But mentorship in this model isn't about the mentor carrying you. It's about the mentor illuminating the path, showing you how they think strategically, why they make certain decisions.
Showing you where the thermals are, maybe.
That's a great way to put it. But you still have to fly into them yourself.
Which leads to the final idea, continuous ascent. The apex of achievement isn't the end point.
No, the book insists it's not a plateau to rest on. It's actually a launching pad for the next phase of growth.
So true fulfillment isn't about arriving, it's about continuing the journey.
Pretty much. Recognizing that the sky is, in fact, infinite. There's always more potential for growth, for impact. The true master knows that resting on laurels just means you start falling back to earth.
Okay, that brings us towards the end of this deep dive into the eagle strategies. We've hit on quite a bit. The need for smart goals and the eagle's gaze for clarity.
The distraction journal and mindfulness techniques for focus.
The importance of a North Star for direction. And then strategic gliding and deliberate practice for actually making progress efficiently.
Yeah, and I think the most powerful undercurrent in all this material is that self-mastery isn't about somehow eliminating all challenges, the storms, the turbulence that's inevitable.
Right.
It's about building that internal architecture, the clarity, the resilience, so you can actually use those external forces. Market shifts, tech disruptions, even personal setbacks. They become fuel. You learn to ride the updrafts that other people just see as problems.
That's a fantastic way to look at it, using challenges as fuel. The book has this line, the eagle never borrows feathers. It simply unfolds what was always hidden. So maybe the final thought for you to consider is this. If your current peak, your current goal, is just based on what you currently believe you can achieve, what new, maybe audacious peak might you define if you started treating your full potential, your eagle's wings, as if they were already a fact right now?
Yeah.
What one thing would you stop doing today to make space for that kind of ascent? Something to think about as you map out your next flight path.